Welcome to the Book of Life, a show about Jewish books, music, film, and web. I'm Heidi Estrin. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. Additional support comes from the Association of Jewish Libraries. I had a great time at the Podcasters Across Borders conference this summer in Kingston, Ontario, a gathering by podcasters for podcasters. The focus was on storytelling and creativity rather than on the technical aspects of audio, but the people I met were inspired and inspiring. I think I was the only podcaster there who focuses on Judaica, but I met many people who shared my interest in books and reading. One of those people was Alexa Clark. Alexa has so many new media irons in the fire I can't even sum it up. Just look for the links to her many endeavors in the show notes at bookoflifepodcast.com. I asked Alexa about some of her book-related projects, Mini Book Expo and Book Camp Toronto. Okay, so we are at the Kingston Brew Pub having lunch, and just after Podcasters Across Borders, the closing session. And I'm here with Alexa Clark, and you run something called Mini Book Expo, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I was at the Big Book Expo this spring, so I want to hear about Mini Book Expo.
Well, Mini Book Expo was inspired by Book Expo Canada. When you attend these book expos, the publishers are there to promote their books and their authors, and so they give away a lot of books. And in general, the people that I know walk away from these things with many more books than they're necessarily able to read. Certainly more books often than they're interested in reading. You end up with, at least a handful of books outside your genre, outside your interests. And personally, I always felt kind of bad about ending up with all these extra books that a publisher has paid to print. So about 3 years ago, I decided that I would take those books and put them on my personal blog and offer them to my friends and readers. And I said, in exchange for getting this free book, and I'll ship it to you, because the publishers consider these books promotional books, I'm going to ask you to write something about the book. You don't have to write a full review. You don't have to do anything formal,
right.
And you don't even have to like the book.
Right.
But just say something about the book, because you got this book for free, and frankly, I'm paying shipping, and I'm feeling guilty. All that whole layers of emotion, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the first year I gave away about 30 books, and about 15 of them got mentioned on people's blogs or through their Flickr stream, took a photo with the book, etc. Or sent me a review, and I put it on my blog for the book. The next year, I wasn't sure I was going to do it again, and I ended up with about 70 books. Yeah, I know. My husband came to the conference with me. And so we even had duplicates of books we were actually interested in. Mm-hmm. And so I did the same thing, but this year I contacted some of the publishers because I had Arcs and Galleys as opposed to books that you'd find in the bookstores. These were promotional copies with, the marketing plan on the back cover and things like that. And I felt it would be inappropriate to hand those out without approval to people I didn't know. Uh-huh. So since this was becoming more popular and other people were writing about it and sending people to me, I thought it was better to contact them. And I had 5 publishers come back and offer me additional titles and offer to cover the shipping of those titles. So year 3, I said, well, you know what? I'm just going to contact the publishers and see if they want to play. And that way I don't have to keep this inventory. I don't have to handle shipping at all. How about I just do this? And we launched a separate site specifically for it, minibookexpo.com. We ended up with over 50 publishers involved, over 500 international bloggers involved. I don't remember exactly how many titles, but a massive number of titles, and over 1,000 books shipped. And it kind of took off. And it's on hiatus right now, but when the site is active, you go to the site. If you find a book that you want and there are copies available, you claim it. The book gets sent to you, assuming that you're in the shipping zone, because there's 3 shipping zones: only Canada and the U.S., and international, worldwide. Uh-huh. But other than that, pretty much you can claim 2 books at a time. And as soon as you write something about one of those 2 books, you have the option to claim another book. Mm-hmm. And it's been fantastic.
What year did you start doing Mini Book Expo?
we started 3 years ago last summer. So that would be 2005, I think.
And what's the hiatus that it is coming back?
The hiatus was because we had released all the books that were on our title list, and given how I've designed the process, it's very high maintenance, very manual. We need to go through a full redesign of how the process works so that it's not consuming me full time, because I have other businesses that actually are businesses that I need to continue running. So we need to rejig the process and the model and make sure that it's functional. So I'm hoping to relaunch in about 4 months, but no guarantees.
Okay. And just because this is, could be time-shifted listening, what is this? This is June 2009, so that would be fall 2009 that you're hoping to relaunch?
I hope to, yeah.
Okay, cool. You also have a podcast or a blog, or what do you do in new media that brought you to Podcasters Across Borders?
I have a personal blog, which is chaotic and silly and not worth promoting. I also blog for my businesses, which are Cheap Eats Restaurant Guides. So Cheap Eats Toronto blog, which is CETOblog.com, and Cheap Eats Ottawa, which is CEOTblog.com. And I blog for a marketing blog called onedegree.ca, and I blog for a food blog, which is called foodists.ca. And for One Degree, I also do video interviews about marketing and social media. So social media is kind of my hobby, and I use it for promotion and to hang out with interesting people like you.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Alexa.
You're welcome. Oh, don't eat.
No, you could eat. So, okay, now we're eating, so there might be chewing noises. But I wanted to come back to talking to Alexa because you just mentioned that you ran an unconference called Book Camp, and I wanted to hear about that.
Well, I was one of 5 co-organizers of the event. It was primarily organized by Hugh McGuire and Mark Bertfuss. I was just there helping. But yeah, we ran Book Camp Toronto. It was inspired by Book Camp London, which Hugh had attended earlier in the year.
London, Ontario?
London, England.
Okay.
The idea was they were having a conversation about the future of the book. And what happened was Hugh and Mark were having a conversation about the idea of Book Camp when the cancellation of Book Expo Canada was announced. And the timing was amazing because they were able to say, well, we are working on this and we're pulling it together. So a couple of weeks ago, we held the first Book Camp Toronto, and we had about 250 to 300 attendees across the publishing industry, technology, marketing, a range of people. The invitations were open to anyone who wanted to participate, who had an interest, and whether vested or not, in the future of the book, in literacy, in the technology around ebooks, around digital rights management, around marketing, literature, and things like that. It was amazing.
So this was unconference style, right?
It was.
So explain about what that is.
Well, it was a modified unconference style.
Okay.
Unconference style is a conference where you have a bunch of people come together for a conversation, and each session is dynamically created by the people in the room. You may pick a topic and you may have a leader of that conversation, but everything evolves based on participants in the room at the time. Because of the volume of people that we had coming, the number of people we had coming, it wasn't possible to keep the structure quite that loose. So we invited people to suggest topics and to nominate themselves to lead the topics. So what we had were session leaders or panel leaders that would go up, state in the first 10 minutes their position or the questions they were interested in discussing around the topic, and then the discussion began, and it was facilitated by the people at the front of the room.
So it was still very open for everybody to participate, but somebody had determined ahead of time what the topic was.
Yeah,
Okay.
And a lot of lively conversations came up from this. From my perspective, it was a really successful, very dynamic conversation about where the Canadian publishing industry is going and where books as a
physical entity?
Well, as a content transmission technique, we're going, because it was. There were times when we were actually talking about what is a book. Is the book the text? Is it the physical construct? Is it a bound thing, or is it the ideas that are being transmitted. Is it the words? Is it, how do you bound that? And as Hugh said, the idea of the conference was more to come up with the questions that we're working on rather than coming up with the answers to these questions. And I think that was the most interesting thing about this group of people, was that there was a lot of open minds, a lot of people talking about what is the future, how do we let publishers evolve, how do self-publishers evolve, how do authors work within this space, who's responsible for marketing and selling and why, who defines, who's curating what content and why, how much influence do or should readers have in the nature of how they consume the content of a book, and where do digital rights management fall in this, and what are the tools and techniques in getting the word out and promoting your product, your book, your content, your ideas, and again, who's responsible for that? Where do the dividing lines fall between an author and a reader? Because as technology evolves, those lines and roles are ever changing and becoming much softer and much more loose, and almost every role in that path between author and reader is being redefined.
Okay. So is this going to be an annual event? Even if they return to the regular Book Expo Canada event, you're going to have this as well?
I believe.
It sounds very different from Book Expo.
Yes, very, very different than Book Expo. And it wasn't intended as a replacement. It just happened to be the timing.
Worked out that people needed something, and there you were to fill the gap.
And there was a hue and cry about Book Expo Canada being canceled,
right,
even though they've been talking about it for about a year. And what are the publishers getting out of this, and why are they participating? Yeah, I believe that we're starting to have conversations about running another one next year. At the beginning of this one, we were asked that very question, and the response was, how about we get through the day first?
Was it a one-day only event?
It was a one-day only event on a Saturday, held at the iSchool at the University of Toronto. There's also book camps starting to be organized in Vancouver and in New York City for October now.
I was going to ask about that. Was the London, England one the first one ever? And
I
was yours the
so.
second one ever?
I believe so, yeah.
But now it's going to spread.
Yeah,
cool.
Which is very exciting. We got an email last week saying that the October dates are set for Vancouver and for New York City. And that's very exciting to me, because the book industry's been changing, and there's been...
That's for sure.
And there's been a lot of challenges for people in traditional publishing. And to me, it's a little funny, because publishing was a leading-edge technology, right? I mean, not yesterday, but it was a leading-edge technology, and it changed the world. And I'd love to see the people who are in the industry embracing the new tools and communication techniques that are coming along to allow them to continue to educate and communicate and inspire.
Awesome. All right, thanks.
Well, thank you.
There are so many ways to connect with the Book of Life. Fan us at facebook.com/Book of Life Podcast. Follow us at twitter.com/Book of Life Pod. Email us at boooflifepodcast@gmail.com, and listen to the latest episode by phone at 916-313-3820. And of course, find links to everything at bookoflifepodcast.com. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida at cbiboca.org, and is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band at freilachmakers.com. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.